Hey, this is MJ, and in today's tutorial I'll be showing you how to make our cozy cottage cabled pumpkin. There's two sizes included in the pattern, so we have a 6-section as well as an 8-section pumpkin. You can also get different sizes by using different weight yarns. So this pattern is worked up with Mary Maxim's Starlit, which is a worsted weight yarn, but I've also made some pumpkins in DK weight yarn as well. So those pumpkins I have made with Mary Maxim Mellow Spun DK. So this makes the pumpkins a bit smaller. Here's one of our smaller ones, but you can see those in all of the photos that you can get different sizes, and you can even take it a step further and use bulky weight yarn or super bulky weight yarn if you'd like to get an even bigger pumpkin than what I show you here. Or likewise, you could use a thinner weight yarn to get even smaller pumpkins. I love the flexibility that this pattern gives you, that you can use yarn that you have in your stash. You can use different weight yarns to get different results, different textures. So I just want you to have fun with this pattern and make some cozy pumpkins for your fall decor. So you're going to need 1 to 2 balls of worsted weight yarn. So I used less than 1 ball for our 6-section, but for the 8-section, unfortunately, we did need to kind of dive into that 2nd ball of yarn to finish this pumpkin off. Now, Starlit worsted is a little bit heavier than some worsted weight yarns. I only have 180 yards on this ball, so depending on the yarn that you choose, you may be able to get away with a full 8-section pumpkin out of 1 ball of yarn. You'll find all the details about yarn requirements for the sizes in the description box below. So you're going to need some twine if you want to wrap around your stem with a little tie. I've used cinnamon sticks for my stem and a glue gun just to secure them in place. You'll also need a yarn needle, some polyester fiber fill for stuffing your pumpkin, and I'm using the 5mm crochet hook for the worsted weight yarn. And I've used a 4mm hook for the DK weight yarn. You just want to make sure that your stitching is nice and tight so the stuffing doesn't come out. So make sure to use a hook with the yarn that you're using that's maybe a little bit smaller than the recommended, just to make sure that that stitch is nice and tight. So this is an intermediate level pattern. The cable is a little bit tricky, so you may find this difficult. You do need to have knowledge of your post stitches, so I'll be using front post double crochet, front post treble crochet, as well as back post double crochets when working this pattern. If you need to slow down the tutorial, you can click on the gear icon below the video, which is the settings, and you can slow down the speed if you're finding I'm going too quickly. Okay, so we'll begin with a magic ring. So to make a magic ring, you're going to wrap the yarn around your index finger 3 times. I'm going to take my hook, so this is my 5mm, and I'm going to slide it through all 3 loops, grabbing the first loop and pulling it through, and then I'm going to chain 1. So the chain 1 won't be included as a stitch at all throughout this pattern. I'm going to yarn over and work 9 double crochets in the ring. So I'll be working up a 6-section pumpkin for this tutorial. So if you want to head over to the blog, you can follow along or purchase the PDF, and all of the sizes will begin the same way. You'll just add a different number of stitches depending on the size you're working on. So for our 6-section pumpkin, we're going to be adding 9 double crochet. So I'm going to finish that off camera. So now once you have 9 stitches, you're going to want to take a look at your loops here, take your tail, start to pull it. Okay, so 1 loop pulls in, and see how this loop's popping out? You're going to take the loop that started to pull in and just give it a tug take your tail, and then it will pull in that other loop. So we'll slip stitch in our first double crochet to join. And I'll chain 1. Now what we'll be doing is working front post double crochets around each stitch. So we're doubling our stitches. So yarn over, and we're going to work that first front post double crochet, and we're going right back around the same stitch, so we have 2. Then you'll see the post of our next stitch, yarn over, work again around the stitch, working a front post double, go back around the same stitch. So we've worked 2. You then want to pull your work apart so you can see your next double crochet. We're doing the same thing, working 2 front post double crochets. Okay, and you're going to repeat that all the way around. Okay, so I now have 18 stitches. I'll slip stitch into the first front post to join, chain 1. We're going to continue increasing. So we'll have 6 rounds in total increasing. I'm going to work a front post double crochet around the first stitch, then 2 around the next. Okay, 1 in the next, and 2 around the next. Okay, and you're going to repeat this all the way around. So 1, and then 2. And this will increase this round by another 9 stitches. So we'll be increasing to 27 stitches for this round. And once you work all the way around, we're going to slip stitch in our first front post double crochet to join, chain 1. And now for the next increase round, we'll do 1 in the first 2. So 1 front post double crochet in the first 2 stitches, and then 2 around the next stitch. 1, 2. So our repeat pattern is 1 front post double in the next 2. So 1, 2, and then 2 in the next. 1, 2. So we repeat that all the way around. So as you can see, how we increase this pattern is there'll be 1 more single front post double before we do our 2 together as we increase the pattern. And that ensures that each round goes up by 9 stitches. So 1, 2, and then 2 around the next. So I'm going to complete that, finish that round off camera. Okay, so I've worked all the way around. I have a total of 36 stitches now. I'll slip stitch in the first front post double to join, chain 1. And this round we're going to now do 3 front post double crochets and then 2. So 1 front post double in each of the next 3, and then 2 around the next. Okay, so 1 in each of the next 3, 1 front post double. And 2 around the next. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that all the way around, and we'll be increasing to 45 stitches this round. Okay, so we'll slip stitch in the first front post double crochet to join, chain 1, and this will be our last increased round. Now for round 6, we'll work 1 front post double crochet in each of the next 4. Okay, and then 2 in the next. So 1 in the next 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 in the next. Okay, so you're going to want to repeat that all the way around. We're going to end up with 54 stitches in total. Okay, so we'll slip stitch to join, and I now have a total of 54 stitches. So we're now going to get into our cable pattern now that we've increased to the desired number of stitches. So we'll chain 1, and we're going to work a back post double crochet in that first stitch. Okay, so I'm yarning over, I'm going from back to front now. I'm going to push the stitch and go front to back, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, so I've worked a back post. Now I'm going to do my 2/2 left front post treble. So this is the first part of the cable. So what I'm going to do is skip those first 2 stitches. I'm going to yarn over twice to do a front post treble, and I will do a front post treble in the third. So I've skipped 2 going to the next. Yarn over twice and to the next. So the 2/2 is showing the stitch count. So now I'm going to come back and I'm working over the top. So I'm yarning over twice, and I'm going to come back and work front post trebles into the skip stitches. So the first skipped stitch, yarn over twice, and the next skip stitch. So this is a 6-stitch cable in total. I'm going to just now work a front post double crochet in the next 2. The repeat for this cable is going to be 4 rows or rounds. So this is the first part of it. Now, between the cable sections, we're going to have 3 stitches, and I'm working them in the back post. So yarn over, again, the back post double crochet. You should be familiar with these stitches before attempting this. So 1, I am picking up strands. Sometimes it can be difficult when I'm trying to show you this on camera. So there's 2 and 1 more. So yarn over, work a back post double crochet. Okay, so now I'm going to, the repeat is going to start with those 3 back post doubles, and now I'm going to do another cable. Make sure you don't miss out on any of these stitches. So I'm again going to skip those 2, yarn over twice, front post treble in the next 2. Okay, now I'm going to go back and work front post trebles in the skip stitches. Yarning over twice. Yarn over twice and front post treble into the next skip stitch. Okay, and then a front post double in the next two. Okay, so I've covered my 6 stitches for the cable, and then now we start repeating. So we're going to do the 3 back posts and then the cable again, 3 back posts and the cable again, and you're going to repeat that all the way around, and we'll be ending up with 2 stitches, and I'll meet you back up for those 2. Let's just do these back posts one more time. So there's 1, 2, 3. Then I'll work another cable, keep going. Okay, so I've come all the way around. I'm ending here with the cable. I have 2 stitches remaining, and we're going to finish with back post double crochets in those last 2 stitches. Then we'll slip stitch and the first back post double to join, and we'll chain 1. Now this round will be a little bit easier part of the cable. So we're again we're always going to be putting these back posts between the cables. And I just find this stitch is a little bit thicker and just helps keep that stuffing in a little bit better. Okay, so I've done the back post. Now what we'll do across the 6 stitches of the cable, we're going to just work front post. So make sure you pull these stitches out that they don't get hidden. Make sure you get all 6, and we'll work a front post double crochet in each of them. Okay, so we're coming up here to our repeat pattern now. So we've come to the 3 back posts. We're going to do 3 back post double crochets in each of those 3. Okay, and then we're back to our cable, so make sure you get all 6 stitches of the cable and work front post double crochets. Okay, so I'm just going to repeat that all the way around. Okay, so once you've worked all the way around with that last cable, we're again ending with 2 back post double crochets. And I just want to also mention, sorry about these flies buzzing. They're absolutely making me crazy. But I live on a farm, and this is a really, really hot October. So the weather today is probably 25 to 30 degrees out. So for Canada, that's pretty warm. And I find whenever we're in a warm fall like this, it just brings the flies out. And I keep trying to suck them up with my vacuum so they stop buzzing in my light, but I just can't seem to win today. So I apologize for that. They're making me crazy too. So sorry if that's distracting in the video. So once you finish that, we're going to slip stitch to join. And the next round is going to be the more difficult round of the cable. So this one's a little bit trickier. So we'll chain 1. We'll work a back post in that first stitch again. Okay, and this time with this cable, we're going to do a front post in the first 2. So 1 and 2. So now we have our next 4 stitches of the cable. We're going to skip the next 2 and do front post trebles in the next 2. So that's the 2/2 right front post treble now of the cable that we're now doing. So there's 1, work a front post treble in the next. So now we need to come back and get these 2 skip stitches, but this time we're going to have to work in behind instead of in front. And this is going to get that intertwining cable that looks so pretty. So here's showing how it looks. So you're wanting to make sure you get it all intertwining. We have to do this instead of going over top again. We have to go in behind, which is the tricky part. So yarn over twice. I like to sometimes just push these 2 stitches and expose these ones to the back, so then I can work around them to work that front post treble. And this is why it's important to really know how to do these stitches ahead of time. Otherwise, this is going to get really tricky for you. So yarn over twice. I'm getting that next skip stitch. Okay, so now we have that intertwining. This one's coming up underneath, and then I'll work 3 back posts. 1, 2, 3, and we're coming to our next cable section. So let's go through that one more time. We're going to do a front post double crochet in the first 2. 1, 2, or the next 2 stitches. Now we have our 4 stitches, so we're going to yarn over twice. We're going to skip 2, work a front post treble in the next, front post treble in the next, and now we need to work back into the 2 skipped stitches. I like to yarn over twice, sort of move my work out of the way to expose the stitches in behind. Yarn over twice. Get the next one. Okay, and then you're just going to keep working around in this manner. Okay, so I finished with 2 back post doubles. I'm going to slip stitch again into my first back post double to join. Chain 1, and we're back to our easier round of the cable. So this is the 4th round of the cable, and we'll work a back post in that first to stay consistent. And now we're to the cable. So we have our 6 stitches, and we're working a front post double crochet into each of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and those ones are tucked in there, and 6. And then a back post double. So this is the start of the repeat. So in the next 3 stitches, Okay, and then a front post double crochet in the next 6, and you're just going to repeat that all the way around. Okay, so I finished with a back post double crochet in the last 2. I've slip stitched to join, and now what we'll do is repeat rounds 7 through 10 2 more times for this size. So you're going to work rounds 11 through 18, repeating this cable pattern twice. Okay, so you'll have a total of 3 of these cable repeats for this size pumpkin. So this is what it's looking like at this point. So now we can crochet up those rounds off camera, and then we can meet up for how to finish up this little pumpkin. Okay, so I'm just finishing up with round 18, and we'll slip stitch to join. I'll chain 1, and now what we're going to do is single crochet around, and we're going to skip every other stitch. So I'm going to single crochet in the first stitch, I'm going to skip the next stitch and single crochet into the next. And just for reference, my repeat, so my cable with my 3 back posts, it measures approximately 2.5 inches. Okay, so if we measure that, it's about 2.5, and you can also measure the rows, and I find it's easiest to measure them here. So in 1 inch, I have 1, 2, 3. So in about 2 inches, I have about 6 rounds. Just so you have an idea of how my gauge is working out. So I'm going to continue single crocheting around in every other stitch. So single crochet, skip a stitch, single crochet, skip a stitch. Okay, so I've worked around. I have 27 stitches in total. You can slip stitch into the first single crochet to join. I'll be skipping that last stitch. Chain 1, and we can reduce this even further just to make it easier to pull the pumpkin in. You could start stuffing at this point if you want, or we'll make the hole a bit smaller and then you can stuff the pumpkin. So I'm just doing the same thing. So I'm going to single crochet, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next. Skip a stitch, single crochet in the next. And work that around. Okay, so I've worked around. My hole is pretty small now, and I have 14 stitches. I'm gonna go grab my stuffing, and like I say, if you're finding this hole too small to get your stuffing in, you can always just pull back some stitches and get your pumpkin stuffed. Okay, so I have a bunch of stuffing. I haven't joined up yet, but I'll see how my stuffing goes in. So mine has pulled back a little bit because I didn't join. And you just want to stuff really to your desired. You don't want to overstuff that it pulls your stitches too much. You don't want to understuff it either. Okay, so I'm going to join up now. And if you're finding that your stitches are pulling a lot with your stuffing, you can always drop down to a smaller hook to make sure that the stitches aren't too loose. Now, like I say, this is a heavier worsted. So if you're using, let's say for example, Brava worsted that I use quite often in my projects, it has 218 yards per 100 grams, and this has 180 per 100 grams. So this is definitely going to be thicker. If I were to use Brava worsted, which would be thinner yarn, I would probably go down to maybe a 4.5 millimeter hook. And that's just a little tip. If you're thinking, yes, I can see too much of the stuffing, then you can always drop down to a smaller hook. Not a big deal at all. So now what you want to do is take a really long tail, because we will be using the tail to make our indents. So I like to take a fair amount just so I don't run out of yarn when I'm doing this. So I've cut off about 100 inches, and we'll see how we make it with that. If you're making a bigger pumpkin, you might need more, but we'll see how we make it with this length. I'm sure it will be plenty. So I've just pulled through, and we need to finish closing up the pumpkin. So I'm going to take a yarn needle. Okay, we'll get the yarn through there. And now what I'm going to do, just to finish closing up this pumpkin, I'm going to go through the first stitch. Then I'm going to weave through every other stitch around. I've got some stuffing stuck in my stitch there. So you're just going through every other. I think I've definitely pulled off more yarn than I'll need. I know it's always a pain when you're working with that long tail, but at the same time, I don't want to run out when making my indents. Okay, so then you can just pull and you can see your pumpkin's going to come together. Now you can always leave the hole open a little bit for your cinnamon stick if your cinnamon stick is quite long, but I am just going to glue mine to the top. I'm not going to worry about that. You can see as I've done this, the stitches have somewhat pulled, but as I weave around, I'm going to sort of cover some of them up with the yarn, but we won't end up noticing that once we finish. So I like to weave just to make sure I get this, for one thing, nice and secure, that the hole's not going to come undone. Just gonna weave through these stitches. So you can go around as much as you want. And then what you need to do is go back in the opposite direction, and that is going to secure it. As you're going in this direction, you can keep pulling it and it's going to make it nice and tight. Okay, so once you're happy, you can go back in the opposite direction, and that's just going to make sure to secure it. Okay, so now what we want to do is start making those indents. So all I'm going to do is take my yarn, I'm going to go through between the cables, I'm going to come all the way down, and then I'm going to stick my yarn needle through the center, pushing it up through the center, the top center of the pumpkin. I'm going to pull my yarn through. I'm going to gently tug to make my indent. Now what I like to do is then go through and make a knot to hold it. Again, because we're working with such a long tail, it can sometimes be a little bit of a nuisance to pull that through. Okay, so you knot that and then it's going to keep it in place. Then I just go over to the next one and I keep doing this all the way around the pumpkin. And once you get it pulled in how you want, you need to secure that. You can knot it, and even just looping it like this will secure it, okay? And you're just gonna keep working around the pumpkin. Okay, so I've worked all the way around. Sometimes you can just play around with it again with your fingers just to the stuffing where you want it. And I have tons left over, so I imagine you'd be safe with the larger pumpkin probably pulling off that 100 inches, and you definitely could do a little bit less for this size. You'd probably be safe pulling off about even 60 inches for the smaller pumpkin, and the 8 section doing the 100 inches. So I'm just gonna trim this before I start weaving in my tail, but then all you wanna do is weave in this tail and trim it, and then I'll meet you back up again for the stem. So now what you wanna do is take your glue gun and put some glue. You can either put it inside your pumpkin or you can put the glue onto your cinnamon stick. So once you have your stem glued in, you can then add some twine or ribbon, tie a little bow, now if you want to stack your pumpkins, then I suggest not adding the stick, so it's up to you how. You can have this longer, you could curl your ends if you want. Really get creative with how you want to display your pumpkin. I've just added one with a longer bow. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and tap the bell to stay updated on all my new videos and tutorials. You'll find all the details in the description box below this video, so you'll find the link to the blog as well as the links to purchase the pattern with all of your supply links. Thanks so much, guys. Have an awesome day.